can you welcome to the Baobab stage, Jacob Funnell?
Okay, so before I begin, and I'm not overshadowing myself, brilliant. Before I begin, can I see a show of hands of who's heard of, very specifically, the Wealden Anticline? Not just the Weald or Wealden, but just the Wealden Anticline. An extremely enthusiastic hand at the back. Okay, fantastic. But otherwise, no. That's fantastic. Oh, two. Yes, you have. Yes. Fantastic. All right. So, I think the Wealden Anticline is one of the most important things for understanding the southeast of England. So, before I can go into explaining what it is, though, I need to give you a whistle-stop tour of the main beds of southeast England's geology. So, yes, woo. So, we're going back to the age of the dinosaurs. We're going back to the Cretaceous. And at this point, England is about the same latitude as Spain. It's quite warm and humid. And so we have dinosaurs. This is Iguanodon. And we are very familiar with the sandstone because it's here in Hastings. We also have bands of clay in that sandstone too. So here are some fossils that I found around here. You've got a tree fern, shark's tooth, crocodile tooth. That's a dinosaur footprint that I found at Rock'n'Nor last summer. I do have small feet, but it's a big dinosaur. And that's just a dude I made out of clay. So you've got bands of sandstone and clay. Next, you have the Weald clay. So we're moving forwards through time at this point. So this is like the next oldest. The Weald clay is a big band of rock. It's mostly clay. You don't really get deposits of it as such. This is a brick quarry in Surrey. Hailsham is a good example of something built on it. So if you're not local, that's due north of Eastbourne, just very flat. And then the next band that we have is greensand. Greensand was formed at the bottom of a shallow sea. It's a kind of sandstone. It's very acidic. Leith Hill in Surrey, which is like the second highest hill in the southeast, that's built on a greensand ridge. You can get bilberries on it. It's very acidic soil. And it can turn into these huge commons, just sandy commons. This is Thursley Common in Surrey.
Excuse me, is that you?
No, that's my friend Greg, who's actually quite a lot better looking than me, so I appreciate that comment. And there's chalk. I didn't have any good photos of chalk or anything, so just use your imagination on this one, but we all know what chalk is. So those are our main beds. Great. So we've got chalk, we've got greensand, we've got Weald clay, we've got sandstone, youngest at the top, oldest at the bottom. Now, if you think about where chalk is, you've got Beachy Head, chalk, White Cliffs of Dover, chalk. There's not a lot of chalk in between. Right now, we're not standing on chalk. So you've got this kind of question, why? Why isn't there a continuous band of chalk? It should be there. So, to explain that, I need to take you to the Alpine orogeny. And I did look this up. Someone did use the word erogenous zone in a geology paper. There's a lot going on here. There's quite a lot of erogenous zones here. But the main thing that you've got is you've got the African plate, and that's pushing up into the Eurasian plate, and it's causing a lot of our familiar mountain ranges. You've got things like the Alps and the Pyrenees and the Atlas Mountains. But you may have noticed we're also not in a mountain range right now, but what did happen is the layers of rock that were laid down in the southeast of England, they were buckled and bent into a dome. A dome of rock is an anticline. Yes! I love you guys. All right. So, we've got the anticline, and now you've also got this question then. So, okay, if the chalk's been bowed up really high, how high could it have been? Well, one theory is that we had mountains over Hastings which were similar to the mountains which currently are in Kazakhstan. So you do have chalk mountains in Kazakhstan. Now that's one theory. Another, probably slightly more likely theory is that the uplift was more gradual, and so you never had massive mountains. But one way or another, it's gradually eroded over time. So in the period following the dinosaurs, we will have had periods of the beds of rock being uplifted into this dome, and then the top being eroded away. And so what that means is you end up solving your problem. Here we've got the South Downs. The rocks was here, it's been eroded away, and then you've got the North Downs, which obviously terminates in the White Cliffs of Dover. And then, where we've got our clay and sandstone in the center, well, this is us. This is us in Hastings. So, when you look at it from in a geological map, it's even clearer. You can see you've got chalk here, it's in green. I really hate whoever did this, because the green sand's in pink. So you've got the green sand here, and then you've got the wheeled clay here, and the wheeled clay is obviously very, very soft, it's very flat there, and then you've got the bands of sandstone and clay here, which is the high wheeled, and obviously we're around here. So this actually extends right over to France, which is also part of the reason why you get chalk cliffs in France, and you will also find the same fossils that you get in Folkestone, for example, you'll get them in parts of France. But I'm going to be talking about the southeast of England because we're best. And some years ago, je suis désolé. So some years ago, I asked my boss for a pay rise, and he didn't do that. He gave me a lift in his helicopter. So thanks, man. And it shows you how you can see the Wealden Anticline from above. So. We took off from Shoreham. You've got the Seven Sisters here and Beachy Head, chalk. Now, when you're over the flat bits, so this is looking, especially when you look north over Pevensey, you've got all of this big area of clay. Clay is soft. It's much flatter. Then you get the much harder sandstones, obviously Hastings Country Park here. So that sticks out because it's harder. It doesn't erode as quickly. Then you're back to your clay, flatter. And then finally, you're back to your chalk with the White Cliffs of Dover. So you get this kind of mirrored structure. Now, this has had profound consequences for the entire history of the southeast of England. So does anyone know what this is? It is, it's Kent. Fantastic, great. So this is Coldham Longbarrow in the North Downs. And this is 1,000 years older than Stonehenge. You can just go there. You don't have to pay like £700 to go there either. And the Downs were one of the first settled places in the southeast, especially extensively settled, because it's a good place to live. You can farm there. You can farm there, and you can clear the trees. It's a great place to be. Now, does anyone know this next one? Sisbury Ring, yes. It's very similar-ish age. So yes, and so this is Sisbury Ring in the South Downs. Okay, so a completely different place, but again, it's on the chalk. It's been settled. Now, you've got this structure, as I say, where you've got the South Downs chalk here, and you've got the North Downs chalk here, and it had a consequence for when the Romans arrived. Because when the Romans arrived in Britain, this is what they found: a huge forest. We had the forest of Anderidal, or Andredsweld. Now, we tend to think, the wild places, they exist in the north. But right up until the end of the medieval period, it was here. It was in this area where it was really wild. This was a very dangerous place to be. Outlaws and bandits would go to retreat here. And you can see, it's all been cleared. It's been extensively cleared on the Downs, but not in the Weald. It's not a very good place to farm or live. And this has had its consequences for place names. So many place names locally, they are shaped by their relationship to woodland. So you have places like Crowhurst. Hurst comes from wooded hill or grove. Den, Tenterden, Rolvenden, Newenden, woodland pasture or swine pasture, which I'll get to. Hellingly, Chiddingly comes from woodland clearing or meadow. Now, so swine pasture. So one thing that you can do in woodland is you can fatten up pigs. Pigs have got something in their saliva which neutralizes tannins and acorns. And so you have this practice of transhumance, where you have your permanent settlement in the Downs, north or south, on the chalk, and you drive your pigs into the Weald, and you can fatten them up there. Actually, in the Doomsday Book, they will talk about property in terms of how many pigs you can fatten on them. And you have these droveways, and you can still see that. In ancient droveways now, it goes from the Downs into the Weald, into where the ancient forest was. And I really want to, again, it's another example of like, now when we construct our identities, because it's very difficult, we're always trying to find some way of like finding some sort of local meaning. We think so much in terms of, oh, Sussex, or Surrey, or Kent, or whatever. But historically, the most important thing is the soil beneath your feet and what's around you. And so these were the sorts of patterns of movement. It's kind of completely independent of county lines. Now, another consequence of this is that you've got, this is Malling Down. It's Malling Hill, it's called Malling Down now. This is just east of Lewes. You've got these strange sort of pits. Now, these pits were used to harvest lime. Well, chalk, which you can refer to as lime, like colloquially. I know they're different things, but it's referred to as lime in the poem, which I'm about to recite to you. So, and Rudyard Kipling talks about this in a poem called From the Land. And he talks about how this chalk was used to reduce the acidity of soils in the Weald, because your sandstone and your clay in the center, that's very more acidic, whereas your chalk, that's more alkaline. So Rudyard Kipling, he has this character who's like this timeless Wealden farmer. And that aged Hobden, that's the timeless Wealden farmer, answered, "'Tain't for me to interfere, but I've known that bitter meadow now for 55 year. Have it just as you've a mind to, but I've proved it time on time. If you want to change her nature, you have got to give her lime." You're really messing up my poetic rhythm clicker thing. Ogier sent his wains to Lewes, 20 hours solemn walk, and drew back great abundance of the cool, grey, healing chalk. And old Hobden spread it broadcast, never heeding what was in't, which is why in cleaning ditches now and then we find a flint. And he wasn't lying, because I think it was like 3 weeks ago I was on a walk around Tenterden. Now and then we find a flint. This is clay, but it's been sweetened with the chalk. Now, okay, so this is on Lullington Heath. This is on the South Downs. Now, immediately this is ridiculous because you've got heather here. Heather likes acidic soil. And it's on chalk, which is alkaline. This shouldn't be. Also it's not very clear here, but this is thyme. Thyme likes alkaline soil. So you have these two things growing next to each other. This should not happen, it should not exist. So what's the reason? What can make these two things? I mean, like botanically speaking, I know this might seem like quite like, okay, whatever, man, they're two plants, but it's like if someone has a flask and they poured out like hot coffee and ice cubes at the same time. It shouldn't exist. So the reason for this is that after the last ice age, we had a lot of areas of permafrost, and as they started melting, you had a lot of dust. And that dust was blown up by winds in some places onto the South Downs. And so you get these very rare places where you get this very thin layer of acidic soil on top of the downs. And so you have things like the thyme, which is driving its roots through the acidic layer into the chalk. And then you get things like the heather, which is in the acidic layer. So this is one of the rarest habitats in the United Kingdom. Lullington Heath is a beautiful place. It'll be looking really beautiful in a couple of months near the Cuckmere Valley. I really recommend visiting it. Now, when you look at the world through this sort of perspective, it changes how you perceive buildings. So I can see from this, I can see it's made from sandstone, so I know that this is from the center of the Wealden Anticline. And it doesn't really matter to me whether it's in Kent or in Surrey or Sussex or whatever. I know that this church will have been for people who would have had to have cleared woodland and who would have had quite a difficult life, especially in the beginning of the Middle Ages. Whereas this barn, it doesn't really matter if this is in Hampshire or in West Sussex or it's somewhere in the North Downs in Kent. You can tell that this person would have made their living from already long cleared farmland. It would have been ruled by sheep and corn. Likewise, Hurstmonceux Castle was near a lot of clay, and you can make bricks from clay. And so this is part of the reason why you build it out of bricks, because that's your local material. You can see this for yourselves as well in you can get such dramatic contrasts that are caused by the Wealden Anticline. So, for example, where you've got Midhurst here, that's on green sand, and then it's near the South Downs. which is chalk. And so if you go for a walk around this region, you get this very rough, kind of acidic environment. You get this sort of belted Galloway cattle and your gorse, and you even get sundews and stuff that you associate more with sort of like highland habitats. And then you just go for a walk up the hill, and it changes to this, changes to the chalk. You've got this rolling farmland. And it's like almost like you're in a completely different place, but it's because of these sudden contrasts caused by the Wealden Anticline. This house, which I saw on the walk, is amazing because it's a Wealden Anticline in a building. This bottom bit, this is sandstone. That's from the center. This is flint. This comes from chalk. Flint is found from chalks. Any flint you see is from chalk. And then this bit here, this is and the bricks, this is all red tiling. It's all clay. It's all local clay. So all different parts, all just summarized in one building. And I think also when you are like in a place like Ditchling, this is near Ditchling Beacon, which is the highest hill in East Sussex. It's very easy, on Devil's Dyke is similar, where you can just see sort of like a disconnected landscape. And if you see like a board, like an information board, it will have like a lot of names of hills, and you'll go, okay, right, that's Toy Hill, and that's, Blackdown or whatever, but it's just sort of like names. But when you look at things through the lens of this huge structure, this incredible structure, then the whole view suddenly starts to make sense. You can see here, I'm stood on the chalk, I'm stood on the edge. Then the low Weald, you have lots of clay, and it's been eroded away. This is part of the reason why the views from the downs are so magnificent, and why when you're in the high Weald, when you're closer to us, you're more nestled, because there isn't this massive band of clay to be swept away. And then when you're in the downs, you can get your eye in for it. You can start to see that the high Weald has a bit of a contrast. It is a bit harder to see, but you can see it. And you can know, if you look at that, you can know that's where the forest of Anderida was centered. And then right on the extreme horizon, you can see the Greensand Ridge. Greensand has places where it's harder. And so you can see this great ridge here, and it's all common land. It's all very rough. It's similar to the stuff I was showing you in Midhurst. There are so many different ways in which you can look at this. It's shaped so much out all aspects of the southeast. It takes us beyond the identities that we try and fashion along county lines, which in many ways are very artificial. I find it a really fascinating perspective to take on where I live, and I hope you do too. Right, thanks.
Brilliant. That was brilliant. Jacob, can you stay for some questions? Wasn't that fantastic? Did you enjoy that? Thank you, Jacob.